There are words you may hear tonight that you will carry for the rest of your life. Words can move mountains in the soul. They can wound like a blade or heal like a hand laid gently on the shoulder. They can awaken the sleeping part of us that still believes in something greater. Never underestimate the power of your voice or the silence that follows it. Both can change the course of a life. Every day you are faced with choices. Some of them are small, forgotten in the blur of routine. Others carve lines into the stone of your existence. In the end, those choices, not your intentions, will be the story you leave behind. Ask yourself before every step, is this the path that makes me proud to stand in my own skin? You will know fear you already have. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of standing alone. But hear me now, courage is not a gift reserved for the chosen. Courage is the decision to walk forward even when your hands tremble and your voice shakes. It is not about never falling. It is about rising again when you do. Time. Time is the one enemy you cannot outfight. It does not pause for your grief. It does not wait for your hesitation. It moves whether you move or not. Treat it with reverence. Do not squander it on bitterness, on hatred, on the endless noise that steals your days. Give your hours to what matters, because when they are gone, they will not return. And yet, within you, there lies a strength you may not even know you possess. You will only discover it in the fire of trial. When the weight feels unbearable, when the world tries to convince you that you are small, that is when you must remember you are more than your doubts, more than your scars. Strength does not roar, it endures. But strength alone is not enough. Responsibility is the true measure of a life. What you do for others will outlive what you do for yourself. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Speak when others are silenced. Stand when others are forced to kneel. That is where meaning is found, in carrying the weight not because it is easy, but because it is right. So let these words settle in you. Let them echo when the road ahead feels dark. Use your voice. Choose with honor. Face fear with courage. Guard your time. Trust your hidden strength. And above all, live with responsibility. If you do, when your final day comes, you will not be remembered for the years you counted, but for the lives you touched. The power of voice is a force that has shaped humanity since the beginning of time. It is more than sound leaving the lips. It is the bridge between thought and the world. A voice can carry conviction so sharp that it slices through doubt, or tenderness so soft it steadies a broken heart. Words carried by the human voice can stir nations, inspire armies, or calm a frightened child in the dark. And a voice is raised with truth. It echoes beyond the room, beyond the moment, reaching into the hearts of people who may never forget it. That is why the voice must never be treated as something ordinary. It is an instrument of change. There is a difference between speaking and truly being heard. Too often, voices are drowned in noise. Constant chatter, endless distraction, the shallow hum of a world that forgets to listen. But when a voice rises with clarity and purpose, it cuts through the chaos. It makes people stop. It makes them turn their heads, not because the words are loud, but because they are real. Authenticity has a weight that no volume can match. When you speak from the core of who you are, when every word is born from truth rather than fear, people listen. And when people listen, transformation begins. Your voice is not meant only for you. It is a gift meant to defend, to uplift, to stand for something greater than your own comfort. Too many times silence has allowed injustice to thrive, cruelty to flourish, and hope to fade. A single voice choosing to break the silence can ignite a chain that changes everything. History remembers not the crowds that stayed quiet, but the few who dared to speak when it mattered most. But the voice is not only for moments of grandeur. It holds power in the intimate spaces of life. The whispered encouragement to a friend, the words of love spoken at the right time, the promise to someone who feels forgotten. These are the voices that do not make headlines, yet they hold lives together. To dismiss them is to misunderstand the depth of human connection. Never believe your voice is too small, too weak, or too late. The truth is that every voice carries weight. And once spoken, once released, it cannot be taken back. It becomes part of the air we breathe, the memory we keep, the legacy we leave. Use it wisely. Use it bravely. Use it with purpose, because the power of your voice may be the very thing the world has been waiting for. Every life is shaped by choices, not by chance. Each moment we stand at a crossroads, often without even realizing it. Some choices may seem small. What we say in anger, how we treat a stranger, whether we look away or choose to care. Yet those small decisions ripple outward, gathering force, changing the direction of not just our own lives, but the lives of others. It is easy to believe that only grand decisions define us, but the truth is that our character is carved by the quiet choices made when no one is watching. The weight of choices is not always felt in the moment. Sometimes it reveals itself years later, when we look back and see where one decision led us or where hesitation cost us. A single word spoken with honesty can mend a relationship, while a single lie can unravel it. One act of courage can set a life on a new path, while one act of cowardice can haunt us in silence. The weight of choice is invisible but heavy, pressing down upon our conscience long after the moment has passed. To carry this weight well is to live deliberately. It means pausing before acting, asking yourself whether the choice before you brings you closer to the person you wish to be remembered as. It means not letting fear dictate your decisions, but letting principle guide them. Choices made from fear often shrink the spirit. Choices made from truth strengthen it. The difficulty lies in the fact that right choices are rarely the easiest ones. They demand sacrifice, patience, and sometimes pain, but the cost of avoiding them is far greater. Each choice you make writes a line in the story of your life. Someday, when all the days are behind you, that story will not be judged by what you dreamed of doing, but by what you chose to do. That is why the weight of choices must never be taken lightly. You cannot always control the storms that come, but you can decide how you will face them, and in those decisions you discover not only who you are, but who you were meant to be. Fear is a shadow that follows us all. It creeps into our minds in the quiet hours and stands before us in moments of trial. It tells us we are not enough, that failure is certain, that stepping forward will only lead to pain. Fear is persuasive because it wears the mask of protection. It convinces us that staying still, remaining silent, turning away is the safety path. But in truth, safety built on surrender is not safety at all. It is a slow surrender of the spirit. Courage does not erase fear. Courage does not silence the trembling in your chest or the doubt in your mind. Courage is the decision to step forward despite it. It is not born in moments of comfort, but in moments when the stakes are high and the outcome uncertain. True courage is not reckless. It is deliberate. It is the quiet voice that says, "I will not let fear choose my destiny." There will be times when fear tells you to walk away from what matters most. A dream you carry, a truth you know, or a stand that no one else is willing to take. And in those moments, courage is the act of choosing what is right over what is easy. It may cost you something, your pride, your comfort, perhaps even relationships. But the absence of courage costs far more. It costs the life you are meant to live. Courage is not always loud. Sometimes it is as small as speaking a single word when silence would have been safer. Sometimes it is waking up after loss and daring to face another day. Sometimes it is forgiving when bitterness feels easier, or holding on when letting go would bring relief. These are the battles no one sees, yet they are the victories that shape a soul. Fear will never vanish, but it can be mastered. The one who learns to act with fear standing at their side is the one who discovers their true strength. And once you take that step, once you prove to yourself that fear cannot define you, the world changes. For it is not fear that writes your story, but the courage to rise in spite of it. Time is the one resource we can never reclaim. It slips through our hands silently, without pause, without mercy. Every second that passes is gone forever, never to be returned, never to be relived. We measure our lives in years, in birthdays, in milestones, but the truth is that life is built out of moments, tiny fragments that vanish the instant they arrive. The tragedy is not that time moves quickly, but that we often live as though it is endless. We waste it on grudges, on distractions, on pursuits that leave us hollow, and only when we look back do we see how much of it has escaped us. The value of time is not in its length, but in how we choose to fill it. A single hour spent with intention, with presence, with meaning, can outweigh years lived on autopilot. Time given to love, to learning, to building something greater than yourself becomes eternal in its impact. But hours lost to bitterness or idleness dissolve into nothing. The clock does not stop because we are careless. It continues, indifferent to whether we use it well or squander it. There is a danger in believing we have more time than we do. We postpone what matters, dreams, forgiveness, truth, until tomorrow, as though tomorrow is guaranteed. But life offers no such promise. Every sunrise is a gift, every evening a reminder that another day has passed, and each carries a question. Did we honor the time we were given? To live fully is to understand the fragility of each breath, and to act with urgency, not recklessness, but urgency rooted in purpose. Time teaches us that nothing is permanent. Children grow, loved ones depart, opportunities vanish, and we are left with the memory of how we spent those hours. Let that knowledge sharpen your focus, not fill you with despair. For when you respect time, when you treat it as sacred, you begin to live differently. You speak words you once held back. You take steps you once delayed. You cherish the people who stand beside you. And in the end, it will not be the quantity of your time that defines your life, but the depth with which you lived it. There is a strength inside every human being that often goes unnoticed until the world demands it. It lies quiet, hidden beneath layers of doubt, fear, and the stories we tell ourselves about what we can or cannot endure. Most people walk through life never truly testing the depth of their resilience, never realizing that within them exists a force capable of carrying them through storms they once thought impossible. This strength does not announce itself with noise or spectacle. It reveals itself in the silent moments when we refuse to break, even when breaking feels inevitable. So the unseen strength within is discovered in hardship, when life strips away comfort, when loss takes from us what we hold dearest, when challenges rise like mountains in front of us. We are given the chance to meet the part of ourselves we never knew existed. Pain has a way of forging endurance, of sharpening the spirit into something unshakable. We may stumble, we may bend, but buried deep is a power that will not let us stay down. What feels like the end often becomes the beginning of understanding just how strong we truly are. Its strength is not about force alone. It is about endurance, patience, and the will to rise. It shows itself when you continue walking forward, even though every step feels heavy. It lives in the quiet decision to try one more time when failure has already visited. It is in the tears you wipe away before facing the world, determined not to surrender to despair. This kind of strength is not admired from afar. It is lived in silence, often unnoticed by anyone but yourself. Yet it is the very core of survival, the quiet heroism that turns ordinary people into extraordinary examples of perseverance. You know, too often we believe strength belongs only to the fearless, the unshaken, the outwardly powerful. But real strength belongs to those who have faced fear and still chosen to act, to those who have felt pain and still chosen to love, to those who have known loss and still chosen to live. It is already within you, waiting to be called upon. And when the moment arrives, you will find that you are far stronger than you ever believed. Responsibility is the weight that gives life its meaning. It is the quiet recognition that our actions do not belong to us alone, that every choice we make ripples outward, touching lives we may never see. To live without responsibility is to drift, to treat existence as though it were only about personal gain and fleeting comfort. But to accept responsibility is to step into the role that life demands of us, to protect, to build, to stand for something beyond ourselves. It is the moment we realize that true strength is not measured by what we take, but by what we are willing to carry for the sake of others. Responsibility is not always grand or celebrated. It often lives in the unseen decisions, the parent rising early to provide, the friend who chooses honesty even when it hurts, the stranger who refuses to ignore someone in need. These acts may never be spoken of, but they form the foundation of a just and compassionate world. Without them, society collapses into chaos and indifference. With them, humanity stands taller, bound together by shared duty. There will be times when responsibility feels heavy, when it demands sacrifice, when it asks you to endure more than seems fair. It may mean putting aside your comfort, your pride, even your dreams, for the sake of someone who depends on you. And yet, within that burden lies a strange kind of freedom, the freedom of knowing your life has weight, that it matters, that it is tied to something greater than your own survival. Avoiding responsibility may bring temporary ease, but it leaves behind emptiness. Embracing it, even when it is difficult, builds legacy. People will not remember you for what you owned or what you consumed, but for the responsibility you carried and how you carried it. Did you speak when others stayed silent? Did you stand when others turned away? Did you protect what was vulnerable, even when it cost you? These are the questions that define a life of meaning. Responsibility is the highest call, and it belongs to each of us. Not just to the powerful, not just to the chosen, but to anyone who draws breath. To answer that call is to live with purpose. To ignore it is to waste the gift of life. When you embrace responsibility, you become more than a single life moving through time. You become part of the force that keeps the world alive. And so when all these words settle, when the echoes fade and silence takes their place, what remains is a simple truth. Your life is not defined by circumstance, but by how you choose to live it. You have been given a voice powerful enough to awaken hearts, choices heavy enough to shape your destiny, courage strong enough to rise against fear, time fleeting enough to remind you of its worth, strength hidden deep enough to carry you through storms, and responsibility vast enough to give your existence meaning. Do not waste these gifts. Do not live as though tomorrow is certain. Live as though this moment is the one that matters, because it is. Leave behind not just a memory, but a legacy. A life that spoke with truth, chose with honor, stood with courage, treasured its time, revealed its strength, and carried responsibility with pride. If you do, your story will not end when your days run out. It will live on, etched into the lives you touched, carried forward in the voices of those you inspired, and remembered not for its length, but for its power.